All right, back to von Manstein's backhand blow. We've played through turn 7, getting ready to start turn 8. Um, yeah, I'm going to reiterate what I said in the last one. You have to get very, very large odds if you want to get good attack results. Now, maybe this is set up so that it provides some balance. Most of the losses I take are one attacker, two defender, or two attacker, one defender, or 0 and 1, or once in a blue moon you might get one where one side takes 3, but that's like and those are step losses, and so maybe this was set up to balance it, and because in a fight both sides are probably going to have casualties, I would think to say. So you figure you have in each turn there are 3 segments for each player that involve movement and combat, or movement and combat, or combat and movement, or one or the other. But so you figure you're executing 3 phases per side each turn. That is probably part of the slowness of the game. Not extreme, but it makes it a little slower. But I think what really makes this game slow is, and I don't have a problem with it for the reason is like for the Soviet player, for 2 of your 3 segments or 2 of your 3 phases during each turn, you have to roll to get points. And the Germans too, you roll to get activity points on your chart over here, and you don't get a ton of them. And you have to use those points to move and do combat. So if you use all your points up to do movement, you're not going to do any combat. Or if you use them all to do combat, you're not going to do any movement. So it's one point to move 1 unit for the Soviets. The German units that are within a division, it costs 1 to move them if they're stacked, as the whole division is stacked together. The Soviets have 2 fronts, so they might get 12 points, activity points. Well, you have to divide those activity points evenly between both fronts, the Varanish up here and the Southwest down here. So, and then it takes 3 to conduct an attack. It doesn't matter how many units are there, it just takes 3 points. So I think where the slowness of the game comes from, that I hear talk about, is you're trying to decide, man, where am I going to apply those points? And I found myself taking 10, 15 minutes just to figure out, well, geez, do I want to move this unit over here, or I need to save the points so that I can do this attack right here, but I really need to move those infantry units. So there's a lot of mental work in it, trying to figure out what, if you're physically playing the game to win as either side, then you're doing a lot of thinking there. And of course, the third of your phases during each turn is just, there's no points involved. You can move and combat, but you can only do one or the other. So, and you can move or combat with every unit you have, but like I say, they can only do one or the other. So if you move them, they can't do combat. If you do combat, you can't move. So, while granted, that's pretty much a free-for-all turn, or for each side, or free-for-all phase for each side, you still have limits in what you can do. So, the Soviet offensive I had going on up here in the way north, you can see that there used to be a bunch of Soviet units up here. Well, the Germans aren't there anymore, but I had a couple SS divisions come in, and they went up and cleared that mess up there, and then took out a bunch of the Soviet units. So all they got now up there is these stripped down infantry units, which really have no power to do anything, and they're certainly not going to attack Belgorod. So the Soviets finally made some damage in here, and they've eliminated some Waffen-SS units, and they're slowly grinding that out. Now, I will say on turn 7, the Germans have the ability to use what they call Rochade or Rocade or whatever. I don't know what's a Rochade. We'll call it Rochadi or whatever it is. But I employed that on turn 7, and they don't have to use any activity points. They don't get any activity points when they use it, but they roll on this chart for your activity points, and they get to use that big column out here on the right at no cost. So they get a whole lot of points for both of their Schwerpunkt phases. You don't need points in the general movement phase. And it paid off. I didn't really have much to work with, but it allowed me to move everybody I possibly could. I had points left over for each of the 2 phases that and you don't get to keep them. So, but you can see down here in the southeast there, they sort of cleaned up that threat. That division there, that KG came on. The big hole in the middle, right there, where the Soviets could just run off down here to these 2 victory locations. Got nothing in there. They're too busy fighting in other places. So that little infantry, he's not going to go very far, because it's not like he can get quadruple movement on a road or anything like that. They're penetrating to Kharkov. I don't know, unless they get a massive burst of reinforcements in there, which, I mean, they still got some good ones coming. Got that big old 28 unit right there. They'll get that eventually. Germans still have reinforcements too coming, so I don't know. I mean, right now, if I had to say where it stands, the Germans have done their job. The Russians really haven't made much progression across the Donets. So the victory points are still -6. So, I mean, the Soviets are losing. And I did get clarification on somebody dropped a comment. Jonathan Townsend dropped a comment in the last video where I was missing something. And I got online and pulled up the living rules. There was no errata sheet, but the newer version of the rules online explained the victory conditions better. So those step losses don't come into effect in this campaign game. It's all these victory locations, and it's done at the end of the game. So that's how that works. So actually, the victory segment at the end of each turn really doesn't apply in this scenario. Administrative move boxes, they have been a blessing for both sides. Probably more for the Germans because they can get troops to where they need to be. But I learned something that these little, let's see if I got one here. These variable replacement, not that one. That right there. That variable replacement, that's 2 steps. Those only apply to non-motorized units. So I can't use them for any of the, and I think I did. I think I boo-booed earlier on one turn. You have this this SS here, this Aufschüttung for the Wehrmacht and for the SS, Waffen-SS. You'll be able to use those, but you can't use them on units that are adjacent to the enemy. But on any turn now, after starting with 7, you can use those where you can just put 2 steps back on any of the units that they're on top of. So, so I could, if I get one of these guys out of here, I can put 2 steps back on any of these guys that have losses in these hexes. Not sure when I'll use that, because it seems like every German unit I got has got to fight because of the step losses that are occurring. And every turn there's something. I think I had one battle right in here earlier where the Soviets took 1 step loss, but they had a Soviet -1 step loss chit. And the Germans took 0, so a battle that had no casualties. Well, no numbers anyhow. All right, so this is where it stands after game turn 7. And I think that was a 5, 6, and 7 I placed. That was another 3 turns. And you can tell there's, I think when I turned the video off last time after game turn 4, the the Soviets were along the river here. Well, you can see they haven't gone much farther. That big old hole is even bigger, just nothing there to exploit it with. And the environment is changing down here a little bit. I've got a recon and an army unit down here for the Soviets, but the Germans reinforced themselves with admin move. And then the Germans stuffed the offensive up here near Belgorod. So now I got to rethink my strategy. The Soviets are already engaged in here. I don't know. I need to decide whether I I'm getting nothing by this fight here, but I'm kind of stuck there. So it's either I got to get after Kharkov, or I got to turn and get after Belgorod. You can't shift troops fast enough to go down here and then get after Stalino, and you're never going to move fast enough to get over here to these two. So we're going to rethink this, and we'll probably play another 2 or 3 turns before we get back on here and update everybody. I tell you, I'm enjoying this game. I play it in chunks of 2 or 3 turns, and then I'll leave it alone for a little while, or I might, play little bits and pieces of a turn, and after a few days, I've knocked out 2 or 3 turns. So many other things I'm looking at right now and working on. But the game's worth the money. I know you can still find it out there if anybody wants to get it. To me, it's worth having. It is. If you set it up, unless you're one of those people that can just sit for hours on it and play it, you could play this in a couple days, honestly, if you just sat there and played it. But like I say, if you're ADD like me, you want to get up, walk away, and do other things. I have so many other hobbies and other games and rules I want to read and videos I want to shoot that I can't sit and stare at this too long. And I'll play this for a while, then I'll get up and I'll go play 3 days of Gettysburg. And then I'll play that for a little while and I'll go get on my computer and dig up something or play a simulation on there. And then I'll stop and I'll start reading some rules or something. But I'm enjoying this, and we're going to play a little bit farther into this, and we'll post some new information on this as we've done. Hey, if you enjoy it, give it a thumbs up, give me a like. If you want to keep up to date, subscribe and hit that bell. That way you'll receive any new videos that I post. All right, good talking to y'all. We'll get back to you soon.